Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, one of my favorite subreddits, where you come to hear stories about people who think that the world revolves around them and that nobody else matters. My friends, I hope you're having a lovely day today because I sure as heck am, because I love reading these entitled stories. Guys, before we get into today's episode, in my last episode, I asked you, if you've worked in retail, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen someone try to return? And today's top answer comes from a long-time subscriber, my friend Trivia Shiraz. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And the comment says, "Oh, fluff. For a short while, I worked customer returns at an Amazon center. Used underwear was tame. I saw that hourly. Some of the scariest things I got to see were all used. Merkins, vibrators, butt plugs, condoms, etc. But the best thing was actually not the return itself. You know those silica packs that come in things? It was in a shoebox, so I thought it was one of those. But it was an egg sack. Hundreds of spiderlings exploded out of the sack. I got to see grown men screaming like 5-year-old girls, running for the emergency exits. In good news, my area had to be shut down, and I got off work with pay for a few hours early." Thank you, Trivia, for sharing that lovely comment. Guys, in this episode, you're going to hear 3 stories. The first is a Karen trying to cut in line and getting shut down. I love this story. The second story is an entitled army wife who thinks since her husband's in the military that she can do no wrong. And we'll finish up with an entitled neighbor that keeps using someone's driveway without permission. My friends, I hope you stay for the stories today and do hit that subscribe button for future stories about entitled people. Let's dive in. This first story is titled, "Karen Tries to Cut Me in Line, Gets Shut Down." So this happened to me before the pandemic at a Wally World. It was a very busy day. My husband and I had just finished our shopping, so I was standing in line waiting to cash out. Now the lines were very long. Really long. There's at least 8 people behind me, and I was the 4th person before the cashier in line. My husband stepped away to find some beverages for us to drink on the way home since it was still warm outside. This lady, our Karen of the story, comes walking past everyone and was standing near the drink coolers that are near the register. She was acting like she was looking in the coolers for something, and she had put her hand on my cart as if to steady herself. I moved my cart back just a smidge so she could look in the cooler without having to touch my cart. I tried to just ignore her. I'm not the type of person who likes to converse with people I don't know. She continues to look in the coolers, but lets go of my cart. The line continues to move slowly, but now I'm 3rd in line. I tried to move up to fill the gap that was left, but Karen was in the way as she was continuing to look in the coolers. The Karen never said a word to me, and she still continues to look in the cooler, mumbling to herself as if she's looking for something. I was starting to push my cart forward, signaling for her to move out of the way as she's not in line, and she's just looking in the cooler. Now, for some ungodly reason, Karen firmly grabs the end of my cart, holds onto it, and yells to someone and motions for them to come over. I looked over to see what looks like to be a man. He was probably at least 6 feet tall, every bit of 300 pounds, and actually had a neck beard. I really wish I was making this story up at this point, but I'm not. Karen then says to the man, "Come over here, right here," as she motions for him to get in front of me. Now, this Karen never once said a word to me, nor did she even ask if he could get in front of me. Myself, along with every other person in line, thought she was just coming up to the coolers to grab a drink and to get to the back of the line. I turned around and looked to see that the line is getting longer, and now there's at least 12 people standing in line behind me. Karen's husband, or whoever he was, had a cart that was overflowing and was expected to get in front of me without asking. I did the only thing I could do. I pushed my cart forward and said, "Nope, nope, nope." Karen takes her hand off my cart, steps back like I just ran over her foot, and stands there with a surprised Pikachu face. She then looked around to see if anyone would help, looking panicked as if she was just assaulted, but no one would help her. I happened to overhear the lady behind me say, "You damn right," as she closed the gap between us. I also saw the man behind her. As he moved forward to close the gap, he was just shaking his head and chuckling to himself. I heard a few chuckles from the crowd that was watching all of this. No one was gonna stand up for Karen, and injustice had been done to her, but no one was gonna help her. The man who we all find out is her son then says to her, "But Mom, the line's long, where do I go?" Karen leaves the line and just says, "Let's go down here," and walks away. I've never laughed so hard in my entire life. I could not believe that I acted so quickly to stop her. Oh my god, I love the fact that OP just said nope, nope, nope. Not all heroes wear capes, OP, and you certainly were the hero that day. That's such a piece of crap move, to pretend to walk past everybody in line and look at the coolers, and then having the audacity to hold the cart and yell to her son to get in front of OP. That's another level of entitlement, I'll tell you guys right there. So, I have a question for you all. Would it have been fair at that point to call her son over if she actually waited fairly in line? Can you hold a spot for somebody and have them bring a cart full of stuff and have that be okay? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This next story is titled, "My husband is in the army, so your house is mine." So, where I live, there's a small army base, and around it is a housing estate where families live. Part of the estate was sold to a couple of housing associations, and I live in one of those. The army families move around a lot, so people in those houses generally move around every 2 years or so, some a little more frequently, others less so. There's a row of 4 terrace houses directly across from me, and one of them was empty, ready for new tenants. And here's where we begin. I took my daughter to nursery, and then we went shopping for some new clothes. This was at 9 a.m. I get back around 11:30 a.m. and see a large moving truck in the street. To avoid them, I go to the other side of my property. I go in the front door and take the new clothes upstairs to sort. While I'm there, I hear noise from my back garden and door. Looking out the window, I see a man with a large toolbox trying to open my back door and a woman behind him looking furious, and the guys from the moving company just standing around with boxes looking bored. I run downstairs and open the door, and the guy, who I guess was a locksmith, practically fell through my door and into my kitchen. He was surprised, of course, and after looking around, he was confused because clearly someone already lived here. The woman then sighs dramatically and thanks me for finally turning up because they've been here since 8 a.m. trying to get in. She just wants to get all of her stuff inside so her kids can sleep. She waves the moving guys forward and then goes to get her kids out of the car. I'm busy trying to stop the moving guys from coming in with boxes, and her 2 kids, about 3 and 6, come charging into my garden. I've got a slide, a swing, a small trampoline, and a playhouse there for my daughter to play with. I yell at them to get out of my garden, and there's been some sort of a mistake, and for them to stay away from my house. One of the movers looks in the window to my living room, sees all of my furniture there, and waves his team back to the truck. His team leader pulls out some paperwork and begins going over it. The woman starts yelling at me, telling me that she lives here. Now, I've lived in this house for 4 years, and tell her such, but she's having none of it. She gets right up in my face, she's screaming at me, and I'm having trouble not bursting into tears from being so emotional and decking her. The locksmith tries to calm her down, and she starts to have a go at him next. I call up the local police station office. There's one in the housing estate, but it generally only caters to the army people and such. I figured calling them to deal with her was the best solution. They arrive a few minutes after and take the woman aside. Her kids are still playing on my daughter's things, so I tell them to get off and go to their mother because those toys don't belong to them. They go reluctantly, and when their mother notices, she begins yelling again. She was yelling that apparently those toys in the garden aren't mine, how they were put there by the army for her kids because her husband is such a wonderful, amazing soldier. She also was trying to tell everyone that this is her house and that I'm some squatter trying to steal it from her. This is when the movers come over and tell her that this is the wrong address. She's moving into number 4, and this is number 14. She goes very silent, grabs her kids, and leaves the garden. I call out to ask her if she's gonna pay for the damages. My garden was wrecked, the grass is torn up by her kids and the movers, my door was damaged, and there was footprints on it, looking like someone tried to kick it in. She tells me no, and she didn't even apologize because she's done nothing wrong. I then inform her that I have cameras installed and that they would have seen the whole thing. I asked the officers if they would like to view the footage, and one of them watches the whole incident take place once I bring out my laptop. He also tells me that he will have to report the women's behavior to the army base, as a family's bad behavior can have repercussions for their soldiers too. It's now 5 p.m. The officer was here collecting copies of the footage in case it was needed to be shown to the army officials as an example of her bad behavior. Husband turned up an hour ago, and there was a huge argument across the street, and everyone could hear it, but not exactly what was being said. Either way, this family hasn't exactly had a good start to their time here, and I can only hope they move away soon so I won't have to deal with that woman again. That woman is definitely a super entitled wife. Oh, this can't be your house. The army left toys and swing sets and playhouses in this yard because my husband is such an amazing soldier. Do they even do that? Oh my goodness. If I were OP, I'd definitely be calling the moving company and seeing if I can get any compensation. Someone really dropped the ball on that one. So OP has an update to the story, and the update reads, "So today, I managed to speak with the husband of the woman. He actually came over and knocked at my door. He apologized for his wife mixing up our houses and wanted to make sure I was okay. He looked over the damages to my door and said he would be happy to fix the damages and buy some stuff to repair my lawn. I thanked him and asked what happened with the whole house thing. He said the movers arrived first, got the wrong house, and then called his wife, who immediately told them to call a locksmith. The movers had keys, so they could get the large items in before she got there. When the keys didn't work, the movers called the locksmith, which is apparently used by the movers a lot, and they did not question the house numbers. When the wife arrived, she stopped the locksmith and tried to get the door open with her set of keys. When that didn't work, she started kicking the door. The locksmith stopped her and started trying to open the door himself, which is where I came in. His wife told him everything after their argument, and he had been keeping an eye out so he could come talk to me. Things are basically sorted now." This story is titled, "Entitled Neighbor Uses Driveway Without Permission." My fiance and I purchased our home a few years ago, and our neighbor introduced herself shortly after we moved in. She seemed like a nice elderly woman who appeared to have custody of her young grandson. We had no issues until her middle-aged son moved in. This guy always yelled at the boy and generally acted like a D-bag. He drove a small beat-up truck that leaked oil. His mother has a nice long double-car driveway, and she didn't want oil stains on the concrete, so she had him park on the side yard next to our house. It was right outside of our kitchen window and kind of an eyesore, but it's her property, so whatever. We assumed that her son would drive through their yard to his parking lots, but apparently that was too inconvenient. Instead, he decided to back into our driveway and through our yard to get to his spot. We were always at work when he did this, but we caught it on our camera. So, our driveway is gravel and isn't in the best shape. Her son would take off too fast and throw gravel everywhere. After a couple of days, he started to leave a rut, so my fiance went over to ask him to stop. The mother answered the door and seemed annoyed by our request. Her son parked in the driveway after this, so we assumed that that was the end of it. Well, while I was at work the following Friday, I received a motion notification from one of our cameras. I check it, and sure enough, I see her son using our driveway once again. After work, I passive-aggressively decided to park my car at the end of our driveway. The entrance is only big enough for one car, and there's a deep ditch on both sides, so I knew her son couldn't get out that way. We were planning on staying in for the weekend, so I wouldn't be moving again till Monday morning. On Saturday, we were doing yard work out front, and the son came out with his dog. He gave us a dirty look but didn't say anything, and I figured he got the message. We woke up around noon on Sunday to a bunch of notifications from our doorbell camera. I pulled up the videos to see the neighbor's son absolutely fuming. He rang our doorbell 5 times and stood on our porch for 20 minutes. The whole time, he was throwing his hands up and muttering about needing to leave. He actually expected us to get up, go outside in the pouring rain, and move my car so he could use our driveway to get out. He must have driven through his mother's yard to leave because his truck was gone. After that day, he never said anything to us and only parked in her driveway, so I guess he learned his lesson. The thing is, if he would have asked us first, we might have worked something out with him, but instead, he wanted to act like an entitled brat. My friends, and that brings us to another end of r/Entitled People. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today, and if you've missed the last episode of r/Entitled People, Karen's kid steals OP's bike, and she calls the cops on him. Oh my goodness, it's such a ridiculous story, so check it out if you haven't, and I'll see your beautiful faces in the next one, because yes, I can see each and every one of you. I'm just kidding, guys. I love you.